This is what the best business co-founders do, according to Michael Seibel.
The best business founders recruit amazing technical co-founders.
And this interview is with the top YC co-founders.
There's no place on the planet like YC.
That's Matthew, the co-founder and CTO of LendFlow.
Single most impactful technology that's helped him with fundraising has been...
We discuss why they got into Y Combinator, but we don't stop there. He shares his biggest learnings around hitting product market fit.
What exactly are you trying to product market fit? We know that lending has traction. We didn't have to create the shift in people's minds. Well, people tried it before, and the reason why it failed is because...
What was your biggest insight while going through Y Combinator?
The number one area for me was the pitches. Altman says it very well. Like, when he's looking to invest in a founder, he's looking for the next.
What does it really mean to be a CTO of a startup?
There's no such thing really as a CTO, because you have to ultimately, when you're going on the technology side, you're not really an individual contributor, right, of technology. You don't write code. You solve it.
LendFlow offers embedded lending infrastructure, so businesses can offer loans to their customers. I'm Adam O'Donnell. This is the Founder Initiative. Let's go.
Well, John started LendFlow in 2019.
He's referring to John Fry, his co-founder and CEO of LendFlow.
He'd already been in the space for a while. He noticed that the SaaS products contained all of the data that SMBs needed to enter into lending, but they couldn't connect the two pieces together. And so he was like, well, lending is inevitable in that space. Nobody's doing it. So let's try and solve for that problem of grab this fragmented data and find a way to be able to really streamline the process to the point where we can match them with these lenders inside of those ecosystems that they're running. And so that's where basically the whole idea came from. These infrastructure problems are some of the hardest to solve for, but they're the most rewarding. I feel like I cheated a little bit because he'd already done PMF. He'd already done friends and family raises. And so for when we joined together, the goal was clear. I would manage technology, he would manage operations and basically go to market, right?
John is his co-founder. John started the company. Matthew joined later as the CTO. They both went through Y Combinator together. I love Matthew's humility there.
There's no place on the planet like YC. It's like you're amongst all the most intelligent people that are like you, that are going, it's like you go to the gym, but it's like a 10x multiple. You go to the gym and everyone's proud of what they're doing. They're just working to become better people. It's the same in YC. They just have this hunger that you can't get that from somebody on the street. Like it's a very different kind of vibe. Even though we were doing it on Zoom, you could just tell. Everyone's hyper-focused. There's no one distracted, on their phones or anything else. Correct. Yeah, and so our partners were Harsh and Dalton, two amazing guys. And it's just the things that you learn from it. Being able to be on a call with Brian Chesky as well from Airbnb. It was just super fun and really helped dial things in for me and John. Especially considering we already had product market fit, so we weren't at risk of pivoting, but we were really just hyper focused on getting through YC and really applying what we'd learnt, not only at that time, but thinking about it over the next 12 months.
Did you get in the first time?
We got in the second time. There's no such thing really as a CTO, because you have to ultimately, when you're going on the technology side, you're not really an individual contributor, right, of technology. You don't write code. You solve for everything. You solve for data, security, compliance, all of these different things that nest in to feed into risk, that feed into everything that the business thrives on and has to basically be built off of. And so I never thought myself as a CTO. I always thought myself as a technologist that is here to basically make sure that whatever we do at LendFlow, we can scale it out, like disaster recovery, whatever that is. And so that's basically the biggest value add I took from YC, in addition to making things that people genuinely want to use. And that's a huge part of it.
That's huge. I then asked him, why do you think LendFlow is accepted to YC?
I think just the maturity of the company, revenue traction, also marketplace, how many people that we had on from both sides, right? Because it's a big network effect as it goes through. And so ultimately, I think that's what really propelled us forwards to go through that stage.
First week into YC, what was that like?
We were hyper focused to what the YC mantra is, which is make things people want, right? And so we were really just concentrating on the clients that we did have. What things could we do to help propel them forwards? Then we started thinking about other components, orchestration, automation, APIs. Making the APIs much deeper so that there's much better control through the end-to-end process, and then leveraging those. For us, it was just being on these meetings, asking as many questions as possible, trying to condense everything that we wanted to kind of accomplish into these meetings, just was super important for us.
Curious, like what the actual curriculum was like.
On a super high level, it really concentrated along the lines of how to map product, how to be thinking about these problems on a high level and applying different solutioning to those areas. And so it's always the perspective thing for me. Like, what things can I learn from this person that is now sitting in front of me that I may not have had the privilege to go through.
Maybe if we could kind of knock out some of the biggest things you learned.
The number one area for me, I think, and seeing other people do the same, was the pitches, because it's almost fine-tuning the pitch to be to communicate the passion behind the problem, right? But also in doing it in a way where it's fluid and is easy for people to ingest. And so it's pure practice for demo day, right? But going through the cycles, the repetitions of doing it over and over again, and even doing it with people outside of YC. You just go to a random supermarket and just try and pitch them on your idea and see what they think about it.
Even if they're not a prospect?
Correct. Yeah, just everybody. Like the best advice I ever got was just pitch everyone. And so I would do that to my brother, to my mom, to people that I knew, and they would give me honest feedback, and then I would do it to complete strangers. I'd be like, can I take 5 seconds of your time, and you can give me honest feedback of what you think of this. If you have a problem in front of you, and you're trying to perfect in that area, it's the 10,000 hour theory, right? Is the more you can do it, the better off you'll be.
There's no way around it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just knowing what to do versus doing it.
Yeah, but that's the hardest part, is sitting in front of a stranger that you've never met before and trying to have a conversation about something that you're so passionate about that sometimes you don't know how to communicate effectively. Because in your head, it sounds like this is the best idea in the world, but then how do you convey that to somebody else who has zero context, right? Or maybe has context and they just want to have a better understanding of why you think about it, right? And so I think you had somebody on your podcast, or maybe it was somebody else, that he said the investor didn't want to see their product. He wanted to understand their narrative. And I think now that you have the language models creating the pitch decks and the language models, which the investors no doubt are using, right? You're basically having AI conduct the whole process. And so the only thing you really have left that's human is the narrative, right? Because you can't, I'm sure you could probably go into a language model and get it to write you a pitch, but the way you present that pitch is completely personal to you, right? It's not, I don't think you can learn that in a language model. Maybe you can learn some cueing techniques, right? Like say the sentence first and then pause for 30 seconds. But I don't think you can really learn the passion in the way you communicate about the problem statement, the thesis, or even the moat.
People can sniff out
100%.
authenticity.
100%. Yeah. Just like you can tell what's been written inside of a language model and what hasn't, right?
Like you just know, or like you see a deepfake video and you're like, there's something off on this.
That's right.
And that feeling is what investors are avoiding.
Yeah.
Because they want to pick someone who has the
confidence. Yeah. Like Altman says it very well. Like when he's looking to invest in a founder, he's looking for the next Zuck. Somebody that can constantly continue through storms, but also the good times, and still come through on the other side, right? And that's what you really want. But it's kind of hard. Like how do you do that? Like, apparently Altman has a way of doing it in 10 seconds. So I don't know how you. Maybe it's the confidence in the speech or whatever else they're talking about. Yeah.
But you can't just get GPT to fake that and then read it and memorize it. It's from your heart.
Yeah, and you can't even. The best way around it is ask a tricky question that may not be as part of a language model response. That's the only way you're going to get a human answer, right? Like sure. So I have somebody coming in interviewing at engineering or in security at Lenflow. They're going to go give me the 10 most realistic questions Lenflow's going to ask me. And
fair question to ask.
Then I'll see that they have answers very quickly, and then I'll mix it up to an answer that they don't have. And that's where the true value of that interview happens, right? Is tell me about this problem. Oh yeah, you were involved in migrating this database. Tell me more. What did you do for this migration? Like what kind of impact did you have? Were you actually rewriting the tables, or were you part of a team doing it? The big difference, right? And I think it's the same when it's the pitch side. You need to be able to pivot, and you have to be able to have. You're ultimately thinking about the pitch process and thinking of every possible combination of question they can ask and having an answer for it. It doesn't have to be the best answer, but it just has to prove that you know what you're talking about. Period. Somebody gave me a really good piece of advice. The single most impactful technology that's helped him with fundraising has been ChatGPT. He literally sets the voice mode on and he says, be the most aggressive intellectual investor that you can be, and I want you to try and trip me up in this pitch. And they'll go through the questions, and it's really fascinating. I tried it once and it's pretty good.
So it's just rapid practicing.
Yeah. On at scale, right? Wake up in the morning at 2 a.m, do it. Because once it's like a routine for you, just like when we're up on the mountain with the Park Service, we have to do avalanche burials, and it has to be second nature. It can't be, because you don't have a lot of time. You have 45 seconds, right? Once we get to a victim. And so if they're stuck down there and you are still trying to figure out how to extend your probe, so the way they do it is the training, right? And in Europe, we used to train like 2 a.m, 6 a.m, to make sure that it was just second nature. We didn't have to think about it. It was just like, that's what you do, done. But the most important thing is like, tell me why you're passionate about solving this problem, and why are you the right person? Like, why can't somebody else do this? What are you bringing to the table that other people can't? And I think that's the reality.
Being able to answer that is the most important thing.
Yeah, confrontational answers. Like that's where the main ones are.
Where are you planting your flag personally? Like saying like, this is what I'm going to focus on, my superpower that AI is not going to be able to touch.
Concentrating in, especially as a technical co-founder, you're concentrating so many different areas of the business. And I feel the largest value that we've had in a recent technology is a technology called Supernormal, which allows us to leverage a localized language model that has all the transcripts of our conversations, so we can really track and add accountability to what we do on a day-to-day basis. So like, for example, when we're thinking about, okay, well, we spoke about doing this last week, well, what's the status of that now? It's much easier for us to have that conversation today than it was 6 or 12 months ago. Even things like Chorus and Granola, they're great tools, but they don't combine everything together. And Supernormal is the only tool that we found, which Jenny, one of our operations people, found for us, that really combines everything together.
So every Zoom meeting's recorded?
Every Zoom video recorded, tasks, transcripts, content. So as a CTO and a co-founder, I can go and say, tell me what my 5 highest risks are from the last 7 days. Here they are, 5 of them. And then so that's what I work on. Like, these are the main things for me to be concentrating on.
Based on all the conversations you've had.
What clients had issues last week. Let me follow up with them, make sure that they're okay. Like, I can't do this without scrolling through endless Slacks or all of this stuff. So it's really consolidated that for us and provided us with a resource that's just invaluable.
That is interesting. I wonder if are they going to bring microphones in the office?
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
But for the meeting, when you're like, we're having a meeting, things were brought up, you can't remember all those things. You might be trying to track it. I mean, because like, I'm just curious. Y'all are probably tracking into some kind of product management tool.
That's
right.
But
yet, this helps catch.
You can record. This is one step further because this is not just recording. This is transcribing. But then it's not just recording and transcribing. It's also context inside of a query that's being asked. So it's like a huge database of what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, localized to the problems I face. Not John, my co-founder, but me. What things are we facing in the business, and how do I solve for them? Right?
That's different.
It's very different. Yeah, and so it's great because I have conversations with all my direct reports across DevOps, engineering, security, all the different areas, and I can get immediate context from that system.
That's really cool.
It's powerful. Yeah,
that's
$12 a month per person. That's
pretty
beautiful.
That's a SaaS product right there. That makes me happy. I wonder if they got into YC too.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. They're a new company.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Lenflow isn't the average startup because it's a startup that's migrating into the infrastructure space that we know that lending has traction. So like, what exactly are you trying to product market fit? There's a product right there, lending, right? So as soon as you connect the pieces, the market fit just falls into place. Not like these other companies that are trying to find, like, so ours was, the Lenflow thing was, we didn't have to create the shift in people's minds because people need money to run businesses, right? SMBs need money.
The problem was really clear.
Yeah, clear. The connection wasn't there though.
It just wasn't possible.
And the credit markets weren't talking to each other. They had all the data, but they weren't talking to each other. So we facilitated that. Well, one of the first people, right? Because there are many more people now that are doing that. And so that's kind of like one of the bigger things that's very different about our company, right?
I love that. It's not deep tech, but it's more in that category. Almost like you don't have to do product market fit research on a cancer drug.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same. It's exactly the same.
You just have to get it built.
That's right.
And there's probably a lot of reasons why it wasn't possible.
Well, people tried it before. That's the funny part. And the reason why it failed is because they tried to segregate all the different components out, right? And so the problem is that you can't do that in lending, or you can't do that in fintech, in SMB lending. They all are part of the same system. They all have to feed in together. And the compliance thing is like another big area.
Interesting. But wait, real quick, there had to have been smart people working on this, and they didn't have that realization. Like, how did y'all figure that out versus?
For me and John coming together, he had the understanding of what needs to work in order for it to go through. And from my perspective, I had already worked at companies that were in the more in the procurement space. Very different, similar set of issues, right? For much larger corporations, right? And so when you bring those two things together, you know that what's going to come ahead, like the flying example, right? 10 steps ahead, and you know where you are right now. And so what do we need to connect all those pieces together? And so that's what we did. Like day one, it was systems design. It wasn't, I'm going to build this one thing. It's, I have to build these 7 things, and I have to make sure that they can talk together. So the first thing I have to do is do a simple, like just a relay from A to Z, and then we build on top of that and structure the system. Obviously, firstly from a security perspective, and then ultimately from a scalability perspective. Yeah, so it's very different. It's a huge beast. It's a massive beast.
100%. Yeah. And that, like you said, they're really rewarding in the end, but they're really hard to get started.
100%.
But that's a great
impossible to get started. Almost impossible, because you have everyone telling you no, not possible, not possible. And then so you have to realize that, well, actually it is possible, because by in going down this path and connecting these pieces, we may not have the whole A to Z system day one, but we're going to work it. We're going to take an iterative approach together. And that's exactly what we did. We didn't have everything from the beginning, but we built it, and we built the reputation. And then from there, we built the infrastructure.
YC is only a reflection of what it means to be a good company. So the things that they care about are what happened, whether or not you go there. Matthew, this is amazing. Thanks for watching. Once again, I'm Adam O'Donnell. This is Founder Initiative. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Go to thefounderinitiative.com if you want to learn more. Boom.